Greetings and welcome to the latest edition of Everybody's Business, a podcast about entrepreneurship, about small business, about all of those challenges and all of those joys of running your own business, starting your own business. Tips and tricks that you can use from people who've been there and done that. I'm Jerry Ross. I'm your host. I'm the president of the National Entrepreneur Center, which is a public-private partnership located in Orlando, Florida. It's funded by our community, and we have about 14 nonprofit organizations under our roof in one facility, sharing all of the resources here with one single mission, and that's to help you grow your business. Today, I have in studio with me Rachel Madsen, my sidekick.
Thank you, Jerry, for having me.
Absolutely. We love to have you. Your smiling face is always a welcome sight. And also, you keep us on track and on time, on topic, all of those things. And today, I wanted to talk about my second favorite thing, food.
Ooh, I already like this topic already.
I love food. I love eating. I love lots of different kinds of food.
Right.
Now, we established earlier that my favorite food is spaghetti. And so I could eat that for every meal. In fact, when my wife and I went to Italy, I tasted spaghettis at all the different areas and regions.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Do you notice the difference?
I did. There's a difference in sauces, and there's a difference in some of the sausage sometimes that they'll put in that makes it a little hotter or a little more spicy. And so that's one of the senses, taste, I think that we, and smell, that I think we take for granted. And so for me, sometimes I eat on the run, as you've seen that. And
I did that through my bachelor's. I would eat in the car.
And then sometimes I don't eat very well, which is obvious. But I still like that too. But engaging sight and smell and taste and all those things is part of the experience. And so I think sometimes we don't engage in that experience fully. Yeah,
this reminds me of Eat, Pray, Love. Like, I always wish I was her. Like, when she went to Italy or Rome or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think she gained the muffin top. That's what it was.
That's right. Which we've all experienced it sometimes if you really love to eat. And so you're probably wondering why we're talking so much about food. Tell folks who our guest is today.
Today we have Chef Michael O'Brien, and he is the proud owner of the Corner Cafe
in Sanford, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is one of the places that I go to truly enjoy the experience, because Michael himself is, part of the entertainment.
Oh, yeah.
Just hearing him go through his menu, he has such an enthusiastic and passionate way of describing the menu to you that you just want to order everything. And I don't. I've been good.
So there's no spaghetti on there, is what you're saying.
But it's okay. It's okay. But one of the reasons that I asked Chef Michael to be on our podcast is not only has he started a business, he's been in business for lots of years. But starting a restaurant particularly has a lot of difficulty involved. There's lots of moving parts and lots of things that you need to know about. Not only cooking the food, but the sanitation, customer service, follow through, the wait staff, all of those things that are involved are difficult in running a restaurant. And we have lots of restaurant owners that listen to the show. But secondly, the fact that he has navigated COVID-19 and been able to stay open and keep his business thriving and moving forward. And so I visited recently, and they were doing okay. And they've navigated through those rough waters of COVID. And while it's not over, I think it's important for folks to think about all of those things that Michael will talk about of how to survive this difficult challenge. But that applies really to every business. And so I think will have some interesting perspectives on not only running a restaurant, but helping businesses survive these challenging times.
Right. And so it should be great to pick his brain. I'm excited.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah. And the food.
That's right. Well, I'm sorry I don't have samples.
Oh my gosh, we can request. I should be doing this more often.
That's right. So maybe we'll have to drive up there for lunch.
Yes, we should.
Not today. We're busy today.
Darn.
Remind me.
I will.
It's a deal. We'll be right back.
The National Entrepreneur Center in Orlando, Florida has been around since 2003 and today is home to 14 business support organizations who have a single mission to help you grow your business. Through free business coaching, low-cost training, and valuable business connections, these 14 business support organizations assist thousands of entrepreneurs each year in starting, growing, and scaling their businesses. So why not visit the website at nationalec.org today or give us a call at 407-420-4848 to discover how you might take your business to the next level. And by the way, the National Entrepreneur Center is funded entirely through local sponsors, which include Wells Fargo, Orlando Utilities Commission, Regions Bank, and the Corridor, just to name a few. So let's get connected today and get growing. Check out our website at nationalec.org.
And we're back. You're listening to Everybody's Business, a podcast from the National Entrepreneur Center. I'm your host, Jerry Ross, president of the National Entrepreneur Center located in Orlando, Florida. This morning, we're talking with Chef Michael O'Brien. He is the owner of the Corner Cafe, which is located in the heart of historic downtown Sanford, Florida. If you're looking to find incredible handmade sandwiches and soups, you don't have to look any further than the Corner Cafe. With a visit there, you can enjoy a killer Cuban sandwich and a range of delicious soups like the French onion soup. And that's described as the best French onion soup on the planet. In the evening, Chef Michael creates hand-prepared multi-course meals that will suit your taste buds and your budget. And if this sounds like I'm speaking from experience, well, I am. Chef Michael is a seventh-generation Floridian with more than 40 years in the food and beverage business. He's influenced by the changing seasons and the experience that only time can bring, which keeps him on the cutting edge of comfort chic cuisine. Michael loves getting to know his customers and sharing his menu in tantalizing detail. And while he is truly part of the experience, it is the food that brings you back. So with all that said, I asked Chef Michael to join us today to share his experience as an entrepreneur, not only creating a fabulous restaurant, which is not easy, but navigating the restaurant business successfully, especially during a global pandemic. So good morning, Michael. Thank you for taking time to speak with us this morning.
Thank you, Jerry. After that beautiful introduction, I'm not 100% certain I'm worthy of being in the room with myself.
That's right. Well, but I'm speaking from experience because we've tested you out on quite a few occasions, and it never fails to bring us back. So tell me about
our cherished customer.
Tell me about the Corner Cafe.
So the Corner Cafe is an interesting little place. It's owned by my catering company, and as you said, I've owned that company for almost 40 years. So really what it is a couple of things. First, as you described it, it's a warm, wonderful place to get good cuisine and to be able to interact, not just with me and the staff, but other patrons. We're sort of a vector point for our little town. We spend a lot of time in preparation of the food, but we also spend a lot of time in volunteering in the community and reaching out and bringing in and so on and so forth. So we're sort of the old, they used to call it the Cracker Barrel, where everybody would meet around the Cracker Barrel. Now they call it the water cooler, but even I think that's become archaic now. So we're just a place to go when you want to connect.
It is a unique experience to go there. And so, how did you come about that model of customer engagement and the enthusiasm that all of your employees have with the food and the menu, and the engagement with everyone? Every time I've been there, we've just been entertained the whole time. So how do you go about finding and making that model as your brand?
So that's a really, really astute question. So we're celebrating our 12th year here in this location. I like to joke it's the longest I've ever done anything continuously except for my senior year of high school. But
well, as an entrepreneur, I know that.
So if you do the quick math, you'll discover that we opened on January the 5th of 2009, when the recession was ablaze. my partner in life and in crime, Miss Jody Hill, and I had both done very well leading up to the recession. I being a caterer, and she had an advertising firm, and we remember the recession is terrible, but we forget how active the economy was leading up to it. I mean, it was going crazy. So when things crashed, we felt sort of a moral obligation to, if you'll recall the expression, to help pull the economy out of the ditch. And so Jody had always wanted to own a restaurant. I'd owned several before. And so we found this little location. That's a whole nother story for another time. But because it was the recession, things were very, 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 very slow. And then to compound that, about a week after we opened, our little town closed down the street out in front of us for a streetscaping project that went on for 6 months.
Perfect timing. Perfect timing.
Out of the frying pan and into the fire. I mean, I got side eye from Jody for probably the next 2 years over that one. But anyway, what it did was two things. First of all, you've been in the restaurant, so you know that it's intimate. It's kind of long and narrow, open, but long and narrow. And so what I did was I set the table placement up similar to how you would do if you were going to open a bar. So in other words, we have that long counter, it's an L shape, and each one of the tables is literally just outside of that bar so that we can walk up and down behind that counter and literally speak to each table intimately. And because we had so little business and so much time on our hands, what got baked into our DNA was just sort of the exploration of conversation, more than just the obligatory, how you doing? Was, hey, where are you from? Oh, hey, what prompted you to come down to Sanford? And, tell me about yourself. And then the conversation starts to flow and you get to know people's names. And so that's really, we were doing it at first just to fill the time. You don't want to have an empty restaurant, so hang on to the customers that you have until the next one comes in, that
Exactly.
sort of thing. But what we found is that that connection, that interaction, is just as important as the food we're serving. It's the environment that we're serving it in. And so it really has become sort of the value added to our menu is that interaction, And
So
if you don't want it, you don't have to have it, but we like doing it.
Let me ask you that's a brilliant idea. And it works because that's every time we go, we feel like we're part of the family. And so was that driven by a strategic decision, or by how do we make this space that we have work? Or is that something that just happened because of the circumstances, which many times I say, I'd like to take credit for that idea, but it happened and it worked. And so we kept it.
Well, so it's all of the things that you mentioned, but what they did was they played into my natural strength. So there's a, like you said, I'm a 7th generation Floridian. So, I've literally, everybody comes to Florida to either come to the beaches or Disney or whatever, the springs or the parks or whatever. And I've been in the food and beverage business my whole life. So I'm just inherently outgoing and extroverted. The joke in my family is that the first word I ever spoke was, "Hi, I'm Michael. Where are you from?" So,
and that was in the delivery room, right?
That right. Hey, Doc, how you been?
Exactly.
So try the Cuban. So anyway,
so tell me about your training.
All right. So I am not classically trained. I have a tremendous respect for my brothers and sisters who have gone through proper culinary training. I am the product of a single mother. My dad was gone 6 months before I was born, so it was me and her. And that's one of the reasons why I got into the food and beverage business so early, because it was easy access. It was something that I could do with little or no, experience whatsoever. Started scrubbing pots when I was, 9 or 10 years old. And so by the time I was old enough to go to culinary school, I already had my first restaurant open and had owned my catering company for a year and a half prior to that. So I'm literally, grassroots, ground up, pot scrubber, dishwasher, busboy, waiter, line cook, short order cook, banquet captain, all of those skills. I was even a room service waiter at a resort down in South Florida for a little while.
Sometimes it's that experience that you get as a youngster growing up that go on to build in some of those skills that are going to be vital and critical to not only the career that is ahead, but survival. And so as a member of a large family, we always were learning jobs, but whether it was cutting grass or working at McDonald's, you learn some of those traits and those processes that work as a kid. And then people later say, well, how'd you know how to do that? And you say, I was scrubbing pots way back when.
Yep. Osmosis, man. It was survival, just helping my mom put food on the table. In fact, I had this conversation earlier today. I feel like I was called to this in the same way a doctor or a minister would be called to their profession. I feel like I was called to this.
Sure. And there's a passion.
Yep. I love people. I love food. I always, if I'm having a bad day, I always say to myself, well, hey, at least I'm not digging a ditch, and God bless the people that do.
Exactly. In summertime in Florida, you're glad to be working inside. I went the MBA route, and I got my MBA when I was working with Ohio Bell and AT&T. When I started my first business, it didn't work. And so I talk about getting my second MBA from the streets because not all the learning occurs in a classroom. So I've got your menu here. I stole a menu as I was leaving and said, in fact, I'm trying to get it here on the screen. Great menu, great food. How do people get in contact or learn more about the Corner Cafe?
So they can go to the website, the Corner Cafe, or just Google the Corner Cafe, Sanford, Florida, and then everything pops up. All the review sites pop up. The homepage pops up. Click on the menu link, and so on and so forth.
Great.
It also takes you to my catering company if that's what you're after, and so on and so forth. That's
Sure.
another thing. I mean, we talk about what makes for successful business. Websites I'm not going to say they're archaic, but they've almost been eclipsed by the Facebook presence. But I think a good website is very, very important, because when people are looking to do deep homework, not just imagery or commentary, but actual nuts and bolts information, I still think a website is crucial. And it plays a big role in your SEO, your search engine optimization, which is also key right now.
That's right. And the reviews that you get. And so people do follow that. So we're going to break for a few minutes, and we'll come back talking with Chef Michael. So if you're in Central Florida and want to visit a unique experience in dining and great food, it's the Corner Cafe. If you're listening to this from all over the country, when you visit Orlando, and you will, Corner Cafe, check it out. We'll be right back after this message.
The National Entrepreneur Center has made it easy for you to learn business principles from anywhere at any time with NEC Online. As a supplement to all the great resources at the National Entrepreneur Center, you now have free access to over 300 learning modules that you can access at any time. Thanks to the generous sponsorship of Wells Fargo and our partnership with The Lonely Entrepreneur, you can access this powerful online learning platform for free. Learn on your own time and at your own pace. Access product reviews and participate in weekly group coaching opportunities. Right now, the only thing missing is you. So check out our online learning platform today at nationalec.org. That's nationalec.org. Did I mention it's free?
Welcome back. You're listening to Everybody's Business with Jerry Ross, and we want to thank our sponsor, State Farm Insurance. State Farm Insurance makes this podcast available and free of charge. That doesn't mean it's not without cost, but that cost right now is paid for by State Farm Insurance, and we thank their sponsorship. We're talking with Chef Michael from the Corner Cafe in Sanford, Florida. So, Michael, what was the most difficult thing for you in all of your years as an entrepreneur? What's the most difficult thing to getting started and then growing a business like you have?
So, honestly, it is the amount of time that you have to devote to it. And I see this a lot. they talk about being well capitalized. The first restaurant I ever opened, I opened with a co-signed $10,000 loan from a family friend. Had him paid off in a year. But to do that, I was putting in a minimum of 60 hours a week and very often 100 hours a week. And this was with, a new baby and another one on the way. And so what I tell people is this: you need to be well funded and you need to be very frugal. But you have to understand that you're getting into a relationship and it takes time, lots and lots and lots of time. It takes time to build clientele. It takes time to learn. What I found with every business that I've ever owned is that if you're doing it right, it will become sentient. It'll have its own personalities and quirks and things that you have to work with and around and through. And that takes time. So, I see a lot of new businesses open up and, they think that, all of a sudden in 3 months or 6 months, they're going to be able to kind of sit back and put their feet up on the desk and point here and point there. And 2 weeks later, they're gone. If you're going to run a mom and pop, then pop or mom better show up.
That's right. And that is like you said, it's a marriage. It's a relationship that requires a lot of time and attention, because many times you're working the regular workday, and then afterwards you're working another workday to do the paperwork and the administration and the research that's required. And so if you're
checkbook and making sure your taxes are paid, all of those things. That's exactly right.
And this will probably date myself, but I used to have a beeper because we would have an event going somewhere in the world all the time. And that beeper would go off at 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. And it was never good news. And so you're back at work. And so it does take not only the passion and, like you said, the finances, but it takes that all-in commitment, which many times you have to make a sacrifice, whether it's family time or whether it's recreation time. The business does require being a priority if it's going to be successful long term.
Well, I heard an aphorism many years ago, and that's the best reason to be self-employed is because nobody else will have you. And so, and so that works in people like ours favor. If there's no big demand for you on the street, baby, you got all the time in the world to do your thing, man.
I was going to say, hey, wait a minute. I've been an entrepreneur all my life. Maybe I just figured it out. What is one thing that an entrepreneur should be sure to do or sure not to do from your experience?
I think sure to do is continue to reinvest in yourself. The very first catering job I ever did was, I thought it was monumental, Herculean. But, in retrospect, I've gone back and looked at it over the years. And I mean, it was, I was working for nickels and dimes. I didn't know any better. I was just happy to have the job. So I think I might have made, I don't know, maybe $300 on it. But I took 125 of that plus tax. And I bought what's called a mandolin. It's a beautiful steel device that you can use to julienne, micro julienne, waffle cut, blah, 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 blah. It was $145 plus tax. And I still use that thing to this day, almost every single day, the same exact one. And so reinvestment is key. Now, sometimes that's monetary. Sometimes it's educational. Sometimes it's experiential, but take a little of everything you do and reinvest it back into yourself. Maybe that's a savings account. Maybe it's an investment fund for something that you want to be able to generate passive income through. Jody and I have done very well with that. But don't just burn through it like there's a never-ending waterfall of finances coming down the sluice at you. Set some of that aside. You're going to need it. There's going to be ebbs and flows.
Because you never know when they're going to close the street outside your restaurant for construction.
Or a global pandemic. I mean,
or a global pandemic.
We did not see that coming. So that's one of the things you should definitely do. one of the things you should definitely not do is ever give up on yourself. I heard another aphorism. I collect these, as you probably well know, is that there are folks who just simply like to throw rocks at shiny things. And so, being in business for yourself, you're not ever going to be able to please everybody. And there's some people who can't be pleased by anything. And so, that in concert with circumstances and weather and the ebb and flow of your own moods and so on and so forth, you just have to make sure that you always have to be your own biggest fan and have that be enough. That's crucial. Believe in yourself. Believe in yourself.
And that's so true, especially as an entrepreneur, because being an entrepreneur and running your own business isn't for everybody. And that's okay. And so not everybody understands managing risk. Not everybody understands vision. And so sometimes an entrepreneur will see things that other people just don't see. And that's where innovation comes from. But you're right. You got to believe in yourself. And it really helps to be surrounded with a group of folks that will be supportive and not throw rocks at shiny objects, like you said.
Yep. So, exactly. So I think those are the two biggest. And if you think about it just for a second, don't those things merge into one another beautifully? Invest in yourself and believe in yourself. So
tell me, were there times when you got started or times during COVID where you got scared?
Well, so I'm Scots Irish, so I'm not smart enough to be scared. So I don't know. I don't have a big fraidy cat gene in my makeup. I just don't have that. That might be part of my blessing. That doesn't mean that I'm not wary. It doesn't mean that I'm not concerned. It doesn't mean that I don't keep my peripheral vision at 270 degrees and turn around and look behind me every once in a while. But again, being an entrepreneur, I believe strongly that fortune favors the brave. And so, and it sounds so trite, Jerry. Honestly, I know it does. But when you come up against a problem or a crisis or whatever the negative thing might be, you're really getting an opportunity to figure it out. Go over it, go around it, go under it, pivot, do something with it. You may not get it right away. It may not come right away. But if you stay focused on the problem without getting wrapped up and becoming part of that problem, it's very likely that you're going to figure it out and you're going to move on, and that's going to add another layer of experience, another club in your bag is what I like to call it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So did I get afraid? No. Did I stay up a lot staring at the ceiling at 2:00 in the morning trying to figure out that Rubik's Cube? Oh yeah.
You bet. And I call that managing the risk box. It's not being risky, but it's acknowledging that there's risk out there, identifying what those risks are, but also managing how we're going to work through that. And many times that challenge that you're looking at is the gateway to the next opportunity when you overcome it and figure it out. And that keeps you evolving. And that's absolutely essential in an economy that is changing more rapidly than ever.
And on top of that, let me add this too, and this is important. I didn't have this in my first relationship. Jody and I are both on our second go round, I like to call it, and she is a self-proclaimed worrywart. And so the balance of those two things, the fact that she and I have, open, trusting, loving, compassionate concerns for one another. I'm a little more likely to stick my neck out. She's a little less likely to do it. And so those two parentheses inside of that is where we make the magic happen.
You bet. And I think everyone needs that. I tell my wife, I have $1 million idea every month. I just don't know which one it is because I had millions of ideas. Not all of them were good. But it takes that balance on, I've heard it said that if you have 1 foot in a bucket of hot coals and 1 foot in a bucket of ice, on the average, you're comfortable.
Correct. Which is why I sleep with one leg out from underneath the cover, don't you?
Exactly. That's, we need that balance to say,
Yep.
We've got to have people that we can go to that'll give us honest answers, lay out those challenges, but we also have people that support us when we have those aha moments there are things I look at and say, I know that'll work. And the decision then is that my opportunity or is that an opportunity for someone else? So
sure. Is it worth your time? I mean, do you have enough runway left ahead of you? I mean, we've looked at several other businesses in our little town. And, in fact, one of them is up and running just a block away from us. The couple that owns it are dear friends, and we do business with them all the time. But Jody and I looked at that, and I said, baby doll, we don't have enough runway left in front of us to get this big bird off the ground. And so maybe a year later, a young man came in who was 20, maybe 15 to 20 years our junior, and just, really did a splendid job in getting that thing off the ground. And I was right. I see what he went through, with, renovations and time and expense and, dealing with codes and all that. And I thought, yeah, you know what? I'm glad the universe picked him because I don't know that I could have gotten that done.
Just as important of knowing what you do and what your lane is just as important as knowing what not to do. Because there's lots of opportunities out there, but you have to find the ones that you're able to address and follow through. And sometimes those opportunities are for someone else that has the experience.
And listen, and we support him and help him. I mean,
Sure.
We just did business with his wife yesterday. We'll be down there probably before the end of the week having supper at one of the little food stalls in his environment. And we've been doing that since he opened his door the first day. I might have been the first dollar ever spent in that place.
Well, I've never met an entrepreneur that wasn't willing to help another entrepreneur. Hold those thoughts, Michael. We're going to be right back. We need to hear a word from our sponsor, so don't go away. Hi, this is Jerry Ross coming to you from the National Entrepreneur Center. I'm coming to you from my home office because our staff as well is working remotely. But we're working remotely to serve the small businesses in Central Florida. If you have a need, if you want to get connected, there are many ways to do that with the National Entrepreneur Center. So we are still answering your calls. We are still answering your email. In fact, we've been pretty busy these last few months, even working remotely to launch the new online learning platform in partnership with the Lonely Entrepreneur out of New York City, who had about 300 learning modules of content readily available. And we've made a partnership to make that available to you for free while you're working remote. So while you may be home working alone, you don't have to be alone because the National Entrepreneur Center and our 14 resident organizations have one mission, and that's to help you grow your business. Welcome back to Everybody's Business, a podcast from the National Entrepreneur Center in Orlando, Florida. If you have a question about your business or a business question in general, you might get it answered on the air, but you have to email us your question at hello@nationalec.org. Today, we're talking with Chef Michael from the Corner Cafe in Sanford, Florida. Chef Michael, let's talk about, the elephant in the economy, COVID-19, and how your business addressed that, what that has done, and how that's affected businesses, but also your strategy that helped you weather that storm.
So, one of the components of the restaurant business, and I'm not sure about the retail end of it. My mom was in retail, but I wasn't, so I'm not sure it exists there. But certainly in the restaurant business, I like to call it the dance. There's a rhythm, there's a flow. If you ever sit in a nice, busy restaurant, if we ever get to do that again, you'll notice how all of the servers and the back of house and front of house, they move together almost like blood through a capillary system. I mean, it's almost, it's almost frictionless. And so when they were closing us down for everything but delivery, opening up to 25% occupancy, 50% occupancy, then 100% occupancy, what that served to do, at least from our perspective, was create this kind of wonky donkey sort of turkey jerky, are we coming or going or this or that? And so literally I used to tell people I go home at night and I'm exhausted from doing algebra. You do algebra all day long. It's like, okay, I've got this much labor hour and this, and I've got to achieve that goal and so on and so forth. I mean, oh God, drive you crazy. So I think the biggest challenge for us wasn't financial. I mean, that was certainly and still is a huge component because, I mean, labor, rent, lights, I mean, that doesn't go away. But it was just not having your feet firmly on the floor with good factual information. One day it's this, next day it's that. And you want to be compliant. You want to make sure that everybody is respected, whether they're fearless or fretful or whatever the thing may be. And so that really for us was the biggest challenge was managing the uncertainty. The uncertainty was the thing that really just rattled my bones.
Right. And that's one of the words that I use to describe the whole economy of the last 9 months at least is, when it started, we were uncertain about how long this is going to be and how hard this is going to be. Maybe it'll be a month. Then it turned into 3 months. And then there was the uncertainty about the virus itself. Are we going to be able to come up with a vaccine? How long is that going to take? And so
how transmissible is it? All of that.
Right. And so I was part of Mayor Deming's reopening task force. And that was part of our challenge is to say, what is it going to take for us to ensure the safety of the public, but also allow businesses to operate and function. And we had done a really good job of convincing people to stay home and look out for their neighbors. And so convincing them to come back out is going to be another challenge. But now we're starting to see some light with the vaccines and things. But that's one of the things I was impressed with when I visited your restaurant is the masks that were required, the social distancing on the floor, that when people came in, they were following the rules. And the masks were being worn and the tables were outside. And so it was very clear that you had taken that seriously and were looking out for the safety of your guests. So I think that's the confidence that will bring people out. As you were following those rules, what was the outlook? How did it look? And how did you deal with that uncertainty?
Well, so, I mean, there's two parts of that. First of all, what I make with my hands is consumed and ingested by people. And it's been that way for over 5 decades. I take that very, very, very seriously. I've seen dozens of food trends come and go, everything from lately it's farm to table, which I think it's always been that, but, all the way back to cuisine moderne and so on and so forth. So, I mean, I've seen dozens and dozens and dozens of food trends come and go. But one thing doesn't come and go, and that is respectful, wholesome, respectful preparation, sanitation, and those things are absolutely part of our DNA. And so when COVID hit, it was, I'm not going to say easy, but it was simple to simply do them much more often. So normally in a restaurant, you close down the day and you go around with your bleach wipes and you hit doorknobs and faucets and, you spiff the bathroom and mop the floors and take out the trash and so on and so forth. Well, during COVID, like you said, now one of the things that we added was taking some of the tables outside and making sure that not only are you wiping the table, but you're wiping the table edges and the backs of the chairs and the backs of the booths and the countertops each and every time, the menus and, So it was really a matter of doing everything that you should be doing on steroids 10 times more often. And so if that is what we can do to keep people safe and to make them feel secure with what we are producing that they then ingest, I say, giddy up, let's go.
Well, and that will give people the confidence to say this is safe to go out and eat, because that's a great form of entertainment that people have missed for a long time, and yet there's still that underlying uncertainty of, is it safe to come out? Is it safe to do this? And so addressing those concerns, I think, will give people the confidence. What was the lowest point during COVID?
Believe it or not, it was when they opened the restaurants back up to 100%. Every time they messed with the percentages, it caused a, you know as well as I, in sales of any kind, and restaurants are, we sell things. That's what we do. Doubt equals no sale. And so each time that they would change or alter the percentages of occupancy, people would seize up. You would see business drop off precipitously, and none more than when they opened it up to 100%. When they opened it up to 100%, there was about 2 or 3 weeks in there where I'm thinking, oh man, this is getting real. Because we've been operating probably on average over the last year at about 75% of viability. The gap has been closed by things like the PPP and the IDL and so on and so forth. Our little city got a tranche of money that they were generous enough to share with, the various businesses in town and so on and so forth. So we were getting by. We weren't drawing paychecks or any of that. Fortunately, we own a restaurant, so we weren't going hungry. But when they went to 100%, it dropped off the cliff, Jerry. And it stayed there for quite some time.
Well, and was that because people who weren't coming out became uncomfortable that maybe it would be too crowded?
There was that, but there was also the fact that, hey, they're 100%. They don't need that compassionate business anymore. I know there was a lot of people that were coming to see us simply because they didn't want us to suffer or to go out of business. Well, now that we're at 100%, everything's hunky-dory, right? Well, and so all of the compassionate, all of the people who were, let's say, investing in our future, they figured it was okay to go back to their normal way of doing things. But the people who were fretful and fearful, they weren't nearly ready to come out, especially in what they perceived might be a crowded environment. So it literally cut off both ends of the income stream.
Sure, and we experienced that ourselves, where when it went to 100%, even as we were thinking about let's go out and do some things, we would go to a restaurant, and if it was packed with people, we said we're not comfortable yet. And so I think we'll get there. But let's talk about, what do you see as the road forward?
So definitely the road forward. I wish this whole thing, and I'm a non-political dude, but I do wish the former administration had implemented tried and true practices much, much, much earlier on. So now, putting the genie back in the bottle, I don't think that's an option. So what it's going to come down to is what we're hearing now, and it's natural immunities. Either you're not going to catch it, or you've caught it and you can't get it again. Likely not get it again. Married with the vaccination program that's coming out. Those two, slightly off parallel lines are going to have to come together somewhere down the road. And, what they're saying right now is fall. So it's going to be taking the practices and the patience that we've learned over this last year I read something this morning that yesterday was the anniversary of the first documented COVID death in the United States. So we've been at it literally a year now.
That's right.
Using those tools, those clubs that I mentioned earlier that are in my bag, which is getting very, very heavy at this point, to stay the course, continue to do what we've done, which is keep a clean house, stay connected to our customers. And by the way, I didn't mention this earlier, but the best way to keep yourself from getting into a funk or becoming fearful or any of that, I think, is to do something for somebody else. The amount of volunteerism that I've done in the last year is equal to the amount of catering that I normally do. So the number that I would normally generate in catering has been reduced to about, maybe 5% of what I would normally generate. So that other 95% of my time, I wasn't sitting upstairs, watching Gunsmoke. I was out there, taking meals to halfway houses and working with churches and feeding the homeless, sitting in on meetings at the city and the chamber, and, just bringing meals to neighbors who are not feeling well, and on and on and on.
Sure. It's one of those things that if you're focused on your own problems and you just take your time and go out and help somebody else, you forget your problems. That doesn't make them go away.
Or it puts them into perspective.
It certainly does. It certainly does. And so helping other people working through this pandemic is how we got through in the first place. And so you've looked into your crystal ball. We're seeing it maybe fall. We're going to get back to some kind of whatever the new is, because I don't think there'll ever be the back to normal.
No.
But as we do this, it's time to look around and say, how do we help others? Because entrepreneurship and small business ownership is a team sport. It's not a solo sport. So see who you can help, and that will help you move forward. We're going to be right back. Don't go away. As we go through this year of the pandemic, many of us thought that would only be maybe a few weeks, maybe a month. But now that it's gone on for months, people are realizing that maybe we're not going to be doing business the way we used to. Maybe business has changed forever. Whole workforces have pivoted to working from home. Schools closed, businesses closed, live events canceled. COVID-19 has pretty much turned our daily lives upside down. Dealing with a global pandemic has also made us rethink how we do everything. Schooling our children to serving customers, it's difficult. Any kind of change is difficult. But when you add to that all the uncertainty that comes with an unpredictable virus, a virus that could be fatal, it's no wonder that folks are feeling a bit stressed these days. So if you are feeling stressed right now, it's okay. You're normal. What you need to know is that you're not alone. Most everybody today is feeling the stress of the situation. Maybe in different ways, maybe with different circumstances, but believe me, everyone has been affected. It's okay not to be okay right now. You are allowed to take time for you, to regroup and to recharge. I think there are some aspects of what we've found from working remote that are good, that we've learned to use different technology. We've learned new ways to stay in contact with each other and with our clients. And I think even when things do get back to normal, whatever normal may be, that we'll find that some of these aspects of technology and video conferencing, online learning, all of those things will be carried forward into the new way of doing business. Remember, in times of chaos, there is always an opportunity. We're back. You're listening to Everybody's Business, a podcast from the National Entrepreneur Center, and we are glad you're here. Today, we're talking with Chef Michael from the Corner Cafe in Sanford, Florida. Michael, let's do a wrap up on you. So where'd you grow up?
So like you mentioned at the top of the show, I'm a seventh generation Floridian. I'm proud to have been born at Orange Memorial Hospital in Orlando, Florida, down on Orange Avenue.
So you are one of the original Orlandoans.
I don't know about original. I read a lot of history. It goes back pretty deep before me. But I like to call West Volusia kind of my home, if you will.
Sure.
But I've been lucky enough to live all over the state of Florida. Gold Coast, Treasure Coast, Panhandle, Central Florida, and so on and so forth. And I dearly love it. Just dearly love it.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
I was lucky. I got out of the gate quick. I wanted to be what I am, and that's just a member of the food and beverage community. I mean, I've got a little bit of ham in me, and it just fit right in. I've always wanted to do exactly what I'm doing, so I'm doing it.
You betcha. Did you have a role model, someone that spoke to you early in your life that gave you the right path?
Many. So, I mentioned to you that my father was out of the picture 6 months before I was born. So what I like to tell people is that God or the universe or however your belief system works decided I didn't need one father. I needed 101. And so I've had so many men and women take me under their wing and, get me, that next yard down the field or that next first down or that extra point or that touchdown. I've had so many, dozens and dozens and dozens, ministers and teachers and neighbors and on and on and on. So, and I'm trying to do the same. I'm trying to mentor the charges that come into my employment, do the exact same thing for them.
Sure. That's the thing. You pay it forward. You pass it on. If you could have a conversation with anyone in history, who would that be and what would you talk about?
I saw that on there, and I tell you, I actually had to sit down. So you want to go back and you want to say, give me Da Vinci, give me Lincoln, and so on and so forth. But honestly, I would love to be able to sit down with Harry S. Truman. I'm telling you,
give him hell, Harry.
Give him hell, Harry. I read the bio by David McCullough. It's a tome. It's got 1,000 pages, I think. But you want to talk about the right man for the right job at the right time. Holy crow. He was the man. And he did the same thing that I did. He started off, as a soldier, thought he was going to be a haberdasher, ended up being a judge, which was at the time like a county manager. And then, just sort of started moving up through the ranks. And, through the tragedy of the loss of FDR and right in the middle of World War II, picked up that ball and ran into the end zone and spiked the living daylights out of it. So Harry Truman.
That sounds like a fascinating read. Now let's get to some really important stuff. What's your favorite color?
Aubergine, my friend, purple.
I was going to say, I'm going to have to look up aubergine. What's your favorite movie?
I'm going to go with Blade Runner.
Blade Runner. Interesting. I like that myself. In fact, I used to have a poster from Blade Runner in one of my offices. What's your favorite drink, coffee or tea?
So coffee in the morning, tea in the afternoon.
I would say I know the answer to this one. Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
Extrovert.
No, really? What's your favorite food to prepare?
Oh, that's a toughie. That is really, really a toughie.
Yeah, we don't make it easy here.
No, and honestly, this is going to surprise you because I get to do so much in my catering. We do a lot of very high-end stuff. Classic French methodology with kind of a Southern Tuscan. I really like a good rustic Tuscan dinner, something that's, quick seared, quick fired, roasted. I love pasta, I love the sauces. I love a good salad or antipasto with a good crusty bread. I'm going to have to go with rustic Tuscan.
Rustic Tuscan. Who's your favorite cartoon character?
Oh, Bugs Bunny. Come on.
That's all, folks. What's your favorite time of year?
going to go with winter because I live in Florida, so that would be the equivalent of, let's say, spring anywhere else on the planet.
Sure. And right now I'm getting all kinds of nasty grams from folks up north about their snow. And it's really cold here at about 45. So
listen, Jerry, it's 29 in Gainesville this morning.
I heard that. That's why I live south of there.
Yes.
What do you do? What do you do when you're not working?
Okay, when I'm not working, I'm spending time with my precious Jody. We made a pact a few years ago not to buy anything for each other, but rather to do things with each other. So we do a lot of things together. We're lucky enough to still have my mom. So one of our favorite things to do, we're closed every Sunday by design. And so we like to take little half-day trips, go see Marjorie Kennan Rawlings' home, or Homosassa Springs, or Bach Tower, or the beach, or something. And then when I'm not doing that, read.
Well, that's good advice. And it's also great recreation, especially for folks that live here in Florida. We kind of take that stuff for granted because it's here. And yet people come from all over the country to enjoy the sights around Florida. Michael, I want to be a good steward of your time. I know you're going to be open for lunch, so we're going to let you go. But we want to thank you for sharing your experience and your expertise with our listeners. Anything that we can do to help, we're in. So make sure that you connect with the National Entrepreneur Center.
Will do. Absolutely, 100%. Thank you for your time. It's been a blast.
Great. Thanks for being here. We'll be right back with a few final words.
If you have a business question that you would like to have answered, or if you would like to suggest a topic for discussion, we would love to hear from you. Just email Jerry at hello@nationalec.org. That is hello@nationalec.org.
And we're back. And thanks for listening to Everybody's Business. You know what I'm surprised is you didn't ask me what my first favorite topic was.
What? Okay. What's your first favorite topic, Jerry?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. Entrepreneurs, small businesses. That's my passion. And food is a close
No-brainer.
second.
I don't know what happened. It just went right over my head.
That's right. So we had a discussion here with Chef Michael about navigating a restaurant through the COVID shutdown. Got some great input and perspective on just the challenges of small business and dealing with such uncertainty. What'd you think?
I think it was important to always think forward, like what he was mentioning about that. That was very interesting in the sense all small businesses can, there is that light at the end of the tunnel.
Exactly. And in every business, you're going to deal with some challenges that come up. And there's been lots of uncertainty over the last year. But I liked his perspective on, I didn't get scared about that. I looked at how do we solve this? How do we move forward?
His comment about the Scott and Irish. He said stupid, I think, but to be scared was part of it. That was funny.
Well, that's it. And I think sometimes people get paralyzed,
right?
And they get paralyzed with fear, or they get, paralyzed by analysis, and it becomes paralysis by analysis. And yet addressing and thinking about the problem and thinking your way through it, I think, is the way that people keep moving forward. And especially in a time of uncertainty, we've got to keep moving forward. So lots of great perspectives, I think, today from our conversation.
100%. Again, I'm still waiting for my samples, but
I'll get on the phone, see if we can't get those. Or, I offered, we'll plan an outing and go there for lunch someday.
The content will, keep me satisfied for now.
That's right. But you'll never let me forget, right?
I won't.
I know you won't. So hope you enjoyed today. I hope you enjoyed hearing about the basics of the restaurant business and how to stay vertical as you're facing lots of difficulties, especially during a time of economic shutdown. And so hopefully we're seeing some light at the end of the tunnel. But what I do know that we're seeing is the menu from the Corner Cafe, which I will be perusing after we get off here. Thanks for listening today. We'll see you next week.